so we're going to go ahead and kick it off with our developer workshop series. This is the second installment. In today's workshop, we are going to be focused on building with the UI Toolkit, which is has been released currently in beta, and talking about accelerating your build when using the Video SDK and this product. So my name is Rahima Armorer. I'm a developer advocate engineer here at Zoom. I'll be working with my coworker, Kelly Andrews, who will introduce himself in just a moment.
Yay. Okay, so thank you, Rahima. My name's Kelly Andrews, and I am a developer advocate here, and we have some code to show you today and walk you through building with this UI toolkit. So for the Zoom Video SDK. So welcome everybody. We're so glad you're here. I want to go through just a few things, like what is the Zoom what is the Web UI toolkit? It's just a library of some pre-designed interface components so you can quickly and easily get ready to go. Building out an app or a proof of concept or something like that. If you want to build something personal and not go through the time of putting all the components together and building all the pieces that you might need to use at sort of a lower level of the Video SDK usage. This is more of a component library that allows you to pull some things in and do it more automatically like that. So our goals today we're going to integrate the Video UI Toolkit with a application. We are going to just kind of understand all the ins and outs and advantages of what the UI Toolkit will bring to your project. Getting comfortable with web development if you're if you are new to this and learning web development and how to put all this stuff together, hopefully this will help you kind of understand some of those concepts at a core level, and then just connect with everybody as a community and bring everybody together. So the workshop today is pretty simple. I will demonstrate a concept, or I will go through and demonstrate a core concept, and then give you all some time for some hands-on practice. We'll go through and look through everything, and always have an open dialogue available if you need to talk or bring anything up or stop me or slow me down or speed me up or whatever. But with 24 of us, we'll get through everything as quickly and efficiently as we can. And I just ask that when I'm demonstrating, just watch and not try to follow along, because it can be kind of hard to flip back and forth and in between windows, and you may miss something I say, and it may make it more confusing. We also have links to everything in the resources tab, which should help you out tremendously as far as being able to get through the different steps. And we have the wiki project in the project folder, which our project repo, which will help you also kind of keep going and keep on top of where we're at. And if you need any help, feel free to raise your hand and we will absolutely take any questions. So okay, so one of the pre-work things would have been to get a developer account for the Video SDK. This is a different account than a normal Zoom account that you might be working with. So it would have been a different process, a different email address, different purchase, all those sorts of things. So if you do not have one and you need help getting one, we can help with that now as well. But just go ahead and start that process to get it get yourself logged in so you can get everything done. All right. So real quick, I do want to show you just sort of what we are going to build. This is nothing earth-shattering or like the best UI ever or anything like that. This is just us putting some code into a page for examples. This is the username and password here really are just more of what my display name should show up as, and then a session password where I can just use anything like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, none of this is really just a security thing, just helping us out with a kind of a login screen and a place to start. We hit submit. That will bring up preview. Now this preview is also part of the UI Toolkit, so we'll be building this as well. It allows me to turn things on, show the previews, make sure everything's working, and then I can move forward. And that will allow me to enable audio, and this would already be running. So this is all built in to the UI kit directly. I have a list of users. I have my camera, microphone, chat window, like hello. Yep. So this is all ready to go and built using the toolkit. And if I want to leave, I can hit end. It kicks me out. Back to login screen. We're all done. So that is the eventual final project that you'll get to, and I will walk you through all the steps to get there and all the pieces that we need to build out. Okay, so we got the developer account covered. And once you have that developer account, you will need to, you'll go to the marketplace and we'll be grabbing in the build video SDK. There it goes. All right. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is get the project source code and get that into the right branch, and then we can set up our environment and everything else there. So if you're following along in the wiki, that'll be step 0, and it will be on the first step of getting the source code. And that we can either do a git clone directly in a terminal, or I'm just going to use the Visual Studio Code over here and a SSH URL right here. So clone repository, drop that in. We're going to clone from that URL. It's going to ask me where I want to drop that in. So I have a folder here. And that will move through. Do I want to open the clone repository? Open. Yep. And that will put me into a new project. And this project now I need to, it's currently on the master branch, which is sort of the all-encompassing projects and workshops. So we want to first get the right branch, and I'm going to use that terminal to do that. So I will open up my terminal, get my desktop all open here. And I'm going to do, let's see, check out UI Toolkit. And we'll go to step 0. All right, so I should switch to, you should all then be able to switch to this UI Toolkit 0 branch. Yep, and we'll get you that link to the feed. Let's see. Go. The repos dropped. That's in the wrong group of people. 1 second. There we go. That's to everyone. Video SDK Workshop. There you go, for github.com. That's where the repo is. Hopefully everybody can. There you go. Awesome. Thank you for the response. Okay, so here we are on with everything we need. And the first step we want to do is we can just install all the NPM modules and the UI toolkit. So with that, we grab that from NPM or Yarn, whichever one you're up to wanting to use. And that will drop that in and install all the node modules for you. Get us ready to go. So once I do that, the next piece I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the environment example and just paste that and rename it as just env. Okay, so .env will allow us to create our environment variables that the project can use. And those are coming from our developer accounts on the marketplace. So you have 2 things here. One's going to be the SDK key and one is going to be an SDK secret. You can copy each one, drop each one in here. I'll go ahead and pause my sharing for 1 second and finish this out so you don't see my SDK secret when I put it in. Just know that that's what I'm doing in the into the .env file here. I'll close that out, resume share. Okay, so we should be good to go with the environment file. So once the environment file is all filled out, that gives us all the sort of basics we need, and then we can go in and start editing, hydrating the context for the apps in the user. While everybody's working, I can kind of go through the repo a little bit. This is React repo, React framework front end with Express backend. Using build tool is now Vite, and I set this up earlier on this week and was pretty happy learning Vite and pretty cool concepts, and hadn't been this excited about a new thing. And then learned yesterday they've upgraded from 4 to 5, which is awesome. So I got to go back and learn 5 now. I thought that was hilarious and so JavaScript of it. To learn something new, and it already is in a new version the week of learning it. I just thought that was awesome. Okay, so let's one of the things in this application, README would be a good way to get started. There's also a wiki, Pete, so you can go to the wiki here, and that will be where we're at now, and you can probably get caught up hopefully pretty easily, I would think. So yeah, go for it. And if you don't, in between steps, there's a branch cut off that you can pull in the next branch and just sort of jump right through to. All right, so with this one, what we want to do is there's the provider that we're passing through with the client context is going to be how we're going to hydrate the application with our UI toolkit. So what we need for that is a couple of lines. We're going to import the toolkit directly from the module first. So import UI toolkit, and we're going to do that from Zoom SDK toolkit. There we go. And then what we want to do is provide that toolkit all the way down through anything that wants to consume it by passing it as a value in the client context. So that means anytime we need that, we can call it out specifically in that page. So this isn't a terribly complicated app, but in something that's way, has more going on, something like this is really convenient to provide the framework through the tools. So the other piece we need to do is, and I'm just going to copy this because it's long and type it, but this is the CSS. So this will allow the application to run the way it's supposed to by using CSS. Some of these styles can be you can go in and edit and customize them on your own. And the import is in the you're going to want to find that in the wiki page, so it'll be directly in there for you. Okay, so we can do that and save here. So this basically allows then the app to pull this up using a hook later on. That's all we need to do here. There's not a whole lot actually to build out, but I just wanted to show you how that works. And then under app JSX, we want to now provide sort of the details around the meeting and the meeting args object in the wiki page when you build this out, because you're all following along, right? Not just you're watching me and not just copying and pasting. And so I'm a real believer that if you watch it once and then do it yourself, it makes it so much better in the long run to learn things. So it was just something I thought would be helpful for everybody. Okay, so these meeting arguments are a part of the meeting we this is a part of the frame. The UI toolkit needs all of this information to build a session and create all the items that it necessary. So you can specify which features here using just plain text. So if you just wanted audio and video, you would get rid of these other three. If you just want to have users in chat, you could do that. You would also then, when you logged in, you're going to pass in the username, which is going to be like the screen name or the display name, and then a session passcode, along with the video SDK chat. Now, being able to do this is a part of the authentication of the video SDK, and why we needed the SDK's secret and key from the original marketplace app over there. So why we need that is because we're going to be running an API call into our server to create the JOT, and all of that's already built. I'll show you that in just a second. And then we'll populate the meeting arguments with that JOT here and pass all of that into the UI toolkit, which will then build everything out. So I'm going to save this one. And I pass that user context here in the provider. And then when I use it later, it'll pull this up and I can update that and keep it going and get all the pieces I need later on. So those should then close out. Okay, one more thing. Yep. So that those two pieces will hydrate our application, and then we want to start consuming those inside of our session. And in the session folder under index, this will be the eventual page that will run both the preview that you saw in the earlier demo and then the video itself. So what we want to do is import a few things from React first. So we'll do that. And I want to do use state to start with. And use state will allow us to set a page state, store that, and update it later on to be able to flip between if we're in a preview state or if we're in a video state. Okay, so we're going to do that from React. And then I want to import our other two eventual components. We're going to build out preview and video. So I'm going to import preview first. Do that from preview ESX and import video. All right, so that brings those all in, and then I have my CSS. And now what I can do is I can create a variable from the use state method called, I'm just going to call it state because why not? And I'm going to use the function use state that I just got imported and give it the initial state, which is going to be called preview. So instead of just returning this big giant session here, I want to actually make this do something. And that is, I want to check what the state is. And depending on the state, return a specific component. So if state equals preview, I want to give the return the preview. Not trying to be too tricky or complicated, just switch between two states. And then using JavaScript, I can flip between those states easily. So, all right, video. Okay, so that should be good. Yeah. Okay, so that will get you all the way down to the end of step 0. And I'm going to do npm run dev and see what this looks like, which isn't going to work because I already have it running. So let me turn the other one off. And try that again. All right. Okay, so at localhost 5173, should be able to see that here. Let's close that. And then if I just type in again my name and 12345 and submit, it gives me preview goes here. Buttons don't do anything yet, but that's where we're sort of at this point, is just we have the initial flow of the application moving. All the kind of data is there ready to go. And then more importantly, when you do run this home, when this home function gets ran, it will be doing API generate. And that's the piece I want to show you here before we all kind of move on. And then we'll give everybody a few minutes to catch up code wise and get everything running and hopefully get on the same page again. And then we can move on to step one. Okay, so API generate up here is the server side, and we have to do this on the server because we don't want anybody to have access to the keys. Otherwise they can create their own keys, and we don't want to do that. So in the server, I have a few things that will allow you to run this statically if you did that. If you wanted to build it and run it statically, you can do that later. And then the API for router. And this is all, I mean, Rahima built the initial part of this, and this has all been a collaborative app. So we've been working on this together. None of this is just me, for sure. It's been an ongoing project for us. So this router here is for the API call for generate, and that is going to generate a new token. And I'll show you what that looks like in the controller here. And that generate token is going to create a signature that returns us a properly formatted JOT. Feel free to reuse this on your own, and just pass in, the SDK keys and topics and passwords. This is all stuff that she's covered in a different workshop that was presented a few weeks back. We'll have a video out for that as well. So be on the lookout for that. And then we can, yes, Rahima, perfect. Thank you. And so yeah, so this will this kind of takes some of that mystery out of how to do the authentication part, but we do have this all pretty well documented. This like basically is the function from documentation to build it out, so it makes it it's pretty authentic for you, and everything else is ready to go. So yeah, all you'd have to do then is just call this anywhere you wanted from as an API call, which we do back over here. So I just pass that in here and pass in my configuration, which is here. And this is where I'm pulling in the username and session passcode from the form. So that form passes all that stuff in here, and then sets it up with me as a host, or basically with anybody as the host, just a role type of 1. And then you pass all that into the generate, and it returns with a video SDK JOT signature, allowing us to authenticate properly. That was kind of long-winded. Hopefully that was a helpful explanation. But at this point, what we should have is the ability for you all to work on your own and get caught up and get the code to a point where it's doing the same thing I have. We've updated a few different files here in session. We've updated index, the main and app files. We've added to our .env file the credentials from our video SDK app. Make sure we've gotten all that. And then the package JSON, you've imported this video SDK UI Toolkit library. Everything else should be there and imported. So you should, once you ran npm install for this one, everything else should have come in as well. So when you do get to the point where this builds, know that it is running with NodeMon. NodeMon will allow you then to make changes, and it will update automatically for you. Well, let's go on to step 1. If you want to skip ahead, you can just use git and just check out the next step, which I think we can get that typed in here. So you're going to do git checkout UI Toolkit -1. if you've made changes to the code, you'll want to either do git stash and get rid of those, or git reset hard and reset it to the original. Either way, but you can then get to this branch, and that will catch you up sort of with this section, so which should be helpful. All right, so next part of this is going to be to actually just build out the preview, and the preview is pretty easy with the UI toolkit. It's kind of a one-liner almost, but we have a couple of things that we can do with React to make it clean up after itself and do those sorts of things. Okay, so let's see, we'll leave that open, and I'll go to the preview file. So the preview file starts with a modal from AntD. AntD is a design library that we use on like our documentation and a couple of different places. So that's here in the, I'm gonna drop that in the chat as well. And that basically they have all kinds of examples and variants and things, but all you need to do with the modal is just define what the contents are, really. And it can be pretty much anything. So it's kind of convenient. So here's what this looks like here to start. And we're going to add a few things to kind of get this going. The first thing is going to be, we need to use context, right? So the context that we set up in the first part of this, we want to now use in the page itself and different pages. And we're going to do that here now, which is going to be from the React library. So we'll put that up, and I want to use that with the toolkit. So I'm going to create a UI toolkit variable here, and that will use the context of the client context. Now the client context hasn't been imported yet, so let me do that from global context here. So this is a file up here that sets up the context that we were using earlier on. So this just runs it and allows us to kind of keep all those pieces for React together, and then we pull them in wherever we need. So client context gets pulled in here, and now we can use the UI toolkit within this part of the application without having to do much other work. Okay, so once we have that, there's a couple of things we want to do, and that is we're going to use add another one, which is use effects. The hooks for React are super helpful, and you just have to kind of know which ones you use a lot, and use effect is one of those that ends up getting used a lot. It's a way for when the page loads, essentially to run something, either when something changes, or if it's or updates and there's a refresh, it'll check and see if it needs to like get new data or that sort of thing. So it's just something that you're going to see a lot, and you'll see a lot today as well. So we're going to use that, which is, it takes a method as the first parameter, and it looks like this. And then as the second parameter, it will take an array of dependencies, which is what it's going to look for if those things have changed on refresh, and if they haven't changed, it'll skip the use effect the effect altogether. Okay, so the effect we want to do here is we want to actually create the preview with the toolkit. And the way it knows where to put it is just with an ID. So I want to come down here to my HTML, or well, my JSX, and put in a div with an ID equal to preview. And that's it. Okay, so this will now get populated when I tell it to by passing this stuff into the UI Toolkit's methods. Okay, so let preview. I'm going to create an item here to pass in, and that is going to be from using good old-fashioned JavaScript. And I will get the document. In the document, I will get an element by ID. Now, once upon a time, this was the only thing we had to do, was get get element by ID, and it was everywhere. And it's we don't miss it a whole lot, but every once in a while we still use it, and it's really useful. But it was everywhere before. Okay, so UI Toolkit, open preview is the method that we're going to use. And what this will do is actually just create the preview, open everything up, make sure we have the right permissions for the microphone and video and everything else we need to do. And it just sort of handles all that. And the way we do that is just by passing it the preview container that we just grabbed from before. What this will allow us to do with use effect is when the page loads, it will determine, like, you know, everything is here, gets the preview, creates the preview. And then if when this component closes out, it needs a way to clean up after itself. And a use effect gives us a way by returning a function. So if we return something that's a function here, it will run it whenever it needs to basically do garbage collection, everything. So with this, we can do sort of the antithesis, and what really even what React says, you know, use effect typically does is if you open something here, you're going to close it, or if you close it, you're going to open it, or whatever it typically you're doing. If you're gating it somehow like this, you're going to do the opposite. And that's exactly what we're doing. So we're going to go into UI Toolkit and do close preview. Close preview. And pass in preview container again, so it knows where to look. All right. Now, if we notice, we got a little bit of a squiggly line over here. Use effect is missing the dependency UI Toolkit. And that is if the instance of UI Toolkit somehow changes, it will rerun everything and do it all again. Right. And that's what it's testing this for. If it doesn't change, and then it won't necessarily need to rerun this when it gets there. Okay, so this gives us the preview in a position where we are almost ready. There's a couple of minor things we need to do, and that is there is an OK button that comes up, and this on OK handler here for the modal is what we want to fill in. And we don't necessarily want the preview page or the preview component to necessarily control it. All that control is happening in our sessions main page. So we are going to end up passing something to handle that here. And we can call that handle OK. And we'll pass it a method called handle. Well, we're going to pass it a method to update the state in this case. So we don't actually need to give it anything new or create a method for it. We're just going to do a callback for a state method right here, which we'll call update. What do I call that? What did I call that? Naming things is hard. Update state. Yeah. Naming things is hard. Update state. And that method here will now update this to whatever we want it to be. Okay, so we can do, we're going to do this to update the state to video. Okay, so with that, that should give us the ability to grab that in the component when it's called no. So we can go handle OK, and we're going to pass this in as a property to the preview. So up here, this will become a property. And this is what gets called down here. So this on OK is now handled by the sessions index page. It's telling the whenever OK gets clicked to switch preview to video. And then that will load the video component at that point. So that gives us the preview portion, and it also allows me to swap the state. But there's one more thing I want to do, and that is adding adding the ability to redirect if this page doesn't have all of the information it needs. So inside of this, we're going to grab the meeting args from the context that we set up in the beginning. And I'm going to do use context as a method to pull that in. And that is the user context this time. All right, so I'm going to save that for a second. And then we need to import the user context as well, which I should make sure it looks right. Context, yeah. And that is from the context folder. No, come on now. Sometimes typing is not my strongest suit, that's for sure. Okay, context / global context. There we go. Okay, so now we have the user context coming in and being stored as the meeting args here. And I also want to pull in a navigation from React. We have a React router DOM. So let me grab that real quick too. There we go. All right, so yeah, use navigate is the other one I want to grab in. So import use navigate from React router DOM. Okay, now to set that up, that is also a hook. So we want to call that and set it up to navigate, call that use navigate. And this will allow us to now navigate in our pages, which is how we have the navigation set up in the app itself. Okay, so navigate here, and so we're going to use our old friend again, use effect. And what we want to do is when this loads, we are going to double check if meeting args has a video SDK jot. And if it does not have one, then it will go log back in. So it'll create one for the user. So we'll do use effect, pass in the method. And that is going to be pretty straightforward. So if video SDK jot is equal to empty string, go back to the home page. And we will take this, and that is a dependency now. So if that ever changes, it'll let us know, although still not liking it because I don't have navigate either. So if the navigate effect, actually our hook is changed as well. Either of those two things will be changed, then it will re-render everything. Okay. And I think that is all of the items we need for this step for this to actually work. So if I go in and try it, which if you notice, Vite's been updating for me, I should be able to hop into my local host here, refresh this, maybe. Session's empty, so I'm going to go back here. Let's see. Something may not be working yet. Let me see how this works. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll just put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Submit. Blank. All right, so something isn't right. I haven't saved anything. So let's save that. Preview. How about now? Nothing. Uh-oh. Oh, wow. Okay, that was subtle. This is not an object. That was brutal. Okay, so I think we've kind of given that enough time. We can move on to our step 2 in the wiki and the final, basically the last step of code and everything here to get it up and running. So I hope everybody is sort of learning the basic concepts of what we can do so far, and how you can, already have seen how quickly and easily we can put things together. At least I hope. So we can now work on the video JSX page and fill in the pieces here. So in order to do that, we're we're going to do the same kind of things we've been doing, where we will import our use context and use effect hooks, because they are kind of used everywhere. So we're going to do those one more time here and bring those in. And then in order to do that, we're also going to import our context again. And I still cannot type today. So we're going to do client context and the user context from context folder, global context, and that gives us those imports we need. All right. So first thing we want to do, took 3 months for us to build an MVP for the web. So that's about 12 under 15. Yeah, and that's probably pretty good then. So depending on your sorry to interrupt, but just to Mario, yeah, just to kind of go back and reiterate, but yeah, a 15-week program might, just depending on the scope of the project, but all good things. Thank you for that. Okay, so let's do this, and we're going to do the same sort of thing we did before, with bringing in the context first. So I'm going to do that here, where UI Toolkit will come in, and it's going to equal use context, and I will pass in the client context just like that, just like we did before. And we're going to do it again with our you can call it meeting args. I call it meeting config here for some reason, because naming things is hard. I will always say that because I will never name things the right way, ever. I'll go back and look at it and still be wrong. Yeah, I have to change them all again. That's just how I am. Okay, maybe that's just my own idiosyncrasy. Okay, use effects here is also happening, and we want to, the effect we're going to do here is actually creating the session. So so we're going to need to do sort of all the pieces that UI Toolkit wants us to do here, and we'll have those. And just like before, this needs to actually be a div with an ID. So I'm going to change that now. And div ID equals, and I'll just call this one session. And that will run update. Okay, now in the effect, what we want to do then is, again, grab that element by its ID. So we're going to do let session container equal document dot get element by ID session. And that will allow us now to pass into a join session method that UI Toolkit provides. So UI Toolkit dot join session. And that takes in a couple of items. One is going to be the actual container. And the other one is the configuration, which we pass in from context. Now, hopefully I don't do it wrong like I did last time and have all of it here. So this one, we're also going to return a cleanup method. So when everything's said and done, it should clean up after us. And that is going to do the exact same thing, where it will UI Toolkit close session. And that also passes in the session container. Let me make sure I actually do that here. Okay. And then our dependencies, we need meeting config and UI Toolkit. So I'm going to grab those. And open my settings, which I do all the time. That keystroke always gets me. Okay, that and meeting config, right? Yep. Again, So bad at that. It's like I hit like space and comma at the same time, and it always like brings it up. Okay, so that passes those two things in to run. That should now actually be functional. So I'll save it, let that reload. Just refresh just to make sure. Hit submit. Okay, in preview. Okay, and now things are loading. I can enable the audio. Okay, so I'm actually in good shape here. I can do things, I can move things around. Although my web browser hates me. We just have to redirect. That actually brings me right into the next one. So the video is working. That web page, particular web browser was not, but this one actually is. So we're going to move forward with that one. Now, what we want to do here is when we're trying to leave a session, not just kill it, which is basically what we just did. We want to actually listen for the event and do something and respond specifically to that event. And we'll do that by updating our video use effect method here to listen for a couple of those, and we have some functions from UI Toolkit to do that as well. So we do UI Toolkit, and we do on session closed. That will fire off when the session closes, and we can pass in a handler here called handle close, which I'll build out in 1 second. We can also do another one, which we'll do on session join. And we can pass in, again, another handler here with a handle join. And that will allow us to now listen for session closed and session joined events. And again, we want to then now, when we return, actually allow ourselves to clean those up as well. And we have a way to turn those off too. So we need to add that also. And I'm just going to copy these. Drop it in here. And instead of on, I'm going to change this to off. And that will allow us to do cleanup. All right. So all that's left here is to actually import these as our properties and then pass them in from our parent container. And that should wrap it up. Okay, so over here in our parent container, we're going to use, we're going to add a couple of just quick handlers, nothing too fancy, but one of them is kind of important, and that's going to be the close handler. So if I do handle close, what I want to be able to do is navigate to the home page if it is when I log out, essentially. So whenever I'm closing the session, it'll navigate me out of here. And specifically when I close a session and we pass a session closed event. So here I can console log that it was closed. And put in here session closed. And then I'll just use our navigate method like before, and just go to the home page. So that gives us one. The other one was we want to do handle join, and I can just say, I'll just do a console log for that one real quick, but you can get more creative with that on your own. And console log. Session join. Okay. And now at this point, we can pass these into our component. And like that. And same thing for handle close. Thought I just yeah, I thought I just did that. So that should give me then Perfect. All right, so now I'm passing handle join and handle close into the component as well now. This is missing both of those methods, I guess. Probably can write that a different way so they're not dependencies. It's kind of lazy, but it works. But you don't necessarily need these to be dependencies so much, because it probably wouldn't change for the most part, but that should still work. Okay, so now if I go over here and type my name in, should be to where we were at the beginning of the session, which is we have a functional video client with a preview that allows me to all the fun stuff. Click OK. And in that error, I need to fix that. Okay, so, and then this, yeah, so we can turn this on and mute. All the good stuff is here. And then if we wanted to adjust that and like not use chat, we could take that out just by going in and updating the, all this here. We just take these out, simplify it if we wanted to. And then that'll refresh and we can see how this looks. Just click OK. Yeah, so now there's only audio and video as opposed to all of it. So, and that's it. Although you probably want to give them settings at the very least. So yeah, and then if I hit end, it'll passes the session closed and kicks me out and takes care of everything for me like that. So that is that concludes that step, which should then get you to the end of the application and hopefully up and running. You could, to take this further, we could actually open this up to like an ngrok instance and share that with friends, and then be able to, have them join in as well. They just have to pass the same passcode and then type in whatever their username they want it to be. If you trust your friends and what usernames they type in, I wouldn't necessarily trust mine. So your mileage may vary. But at this point, we can continue to keep working until we've all sort of caught up. Hopefully everybody has learned something today, and at least, has a solid understanding of what we can do here and how you can help out.